Welcome to another episode of Myth Busting with me, FoxyNoTail, and of course, Slack Lizard. Today, we're going to be deciding, or trying to determine, the actual effect of containers in your world, not just using frames per second and how it affects your client or your device, but actually how it affects your world. And we're going to be using my brand new pack, which is called Tick Performance, which you can download from FoxyNoTail.com. That tells you how your world is doing in terms of its tick performance.
You know, I can see since the last time we've used this pack, you've updated it.
Yeah.
What is the difference between odd ticks and even ticks now?
Okay, so in Bedrock Edition, even though it's like Java Edition and it has 20 ticks per second, it actually splits that into two types of ticks. You've got a tick that will run things like redstone and things like that, and you've got another tick which will do things like entity behaviors and other things. Now, I'm not 100% sure exactly what goes into each type of tick, but in my testing, redstone will always be on one and other things will always be on another. So in my test world, I went to our incredibly laggy hopper farm thing that we made for the last myth busting video, and only one of the ticks was being affected and the other one was then being used to catch up. So it would give us an average of the right speed, so the even ticks on that one would go really, really fast and the redstone would go slow. But then I summoned in an absolute ton of entities next to it, literally thousands of creepers next to it to really slow the game down, and that made both of them go really slow. So it made the redstone one go even slower, and the other one that was being catch up also very, very slow, totally lagging out the world.
Last episode, or the episode before last, we did the whole hopper test, and we confirmed that items trying to be pushed into containers do generate lag if there's no room in the containers.
Correct.
What is the best way to optimize the amount of lag you get? Because we've got many storage containers in the game, as you've laid out here.
Yeah.
But really, the two that I'm really the most concerned about is barrels and chests, you know, because does it make a difference that this is not a full hitbox, you know, which do they generate lag?
I don't know. Well, we've got a couple of ways we can determine this. We can determine, like, just by spamming loads of them into the world, how it affects our frames per second, which is our client side, but we can also determine whether or not that's actually affecting the server as well. And then we could set up some tests with some hoppers going in there, with some items going in to see, you know, which one's more capable of handling items going in than others. A few things we're not going to test. Hoppers, obviously, because that's a redstone item, and entities, because we don't think entities would be offering a particularly fair test. So I think we should start by basically making a whole chunk's worth of barrels, seeing what happens. Do you know what? I think doing this on a single player world's almost kind of pointless, because as we determined last time, we needed 16,000 hoppers to actually put a dent in it, but we do have a realm. Should we not just start this on a realm? Okay, Slack, just before we get started on a realm, just because realms is dumb, apparently the title command can't have a certain number of characters on realms, so my little test performance pack doesn't work as well, so we have to spam it into the chat instead, which means it's still there, but it's not quite as good. But, you know,
it's actually, you know, dead flat even this time.
So my FPS hasn't shifted at all. Exactly 120, but how's the game coping with it? It's fine.
Double it up.
All right, so I'm going to make it 4 times as much. And if we get the whole thing on the screen, geez, almost. Yeah, my frames per second is exactly the same. And according to this, yeah, it's not affecting the game in the slightest. It's absolutely fine with 16,384 barrels. Not a problem. Okay. Well, my frames per second is still holding. What about yours?
I'm down to 70.
Okay. Well, I already knew that chests are going to be bad for frames per second, but are they bad for performance? No. 16,384 chests coming up, Slack.
Oh, no. Oh no!
I'm unloading them because I've gone too far away, but yeah, I'm down to 42 frames per second. And according to our laggometer, no lag at all. 1 chunk's worth of, and whoa, I'm already feeling that. The closer you get to the particles, though, the worse it is. That's the problem. If you stand right here, you know, it's screen death. But if you walk back a little bit.
Sounds like we need we need a no particle pack for ender chest. Wow, I'm already at 20.
Yeah, I'm at 50. So worse than chests, but how are they affecting the game? They're not even in the slightest. I don't think it's going to be possible to get far enough back to actually see them all, but I think we can quite easily determine that that is not very good for our frames per second. Yeah.
No, that is a killer.
Yeah.
What about the server?
Well, the server
Wow.
doesn't seem
Realm.
to care at all. 86.
And I'm at 50.
Server performance doesn't care. Now I'm down to 28 frames a second. But
I'm at 16.
still absolutely no problem for the server. Absolutely no problem for frames per second for me.
Nope, not a problem one.
And absolutely no problem for the server. This is good news. Yeah, my frames per second is absolutely fine with those.
I've taken a hit. I'm down to 84, 85.
But what about the server? Does the server even care? It does not. Doesn't bother mine. What about yours?
I'm down to about 110.
Oh, okay. And server, again, doesn't care. It's a bit more wibbly-wobbly now, but it's still...
Now, is that because we've got all this... Oh, God, don't turn and look that way. Whew.
Whoa.
I warned you.
Yeah, it seems fine. We TP ourselves like very far away and then check it. So we're 10,000 blocks away.
The even ticks are still a bit off, though. Is that because we've moved further out now?
Oh, no, because don't forget, Slack, wherever you load into a world,
Oh, yeah.
it stays loaded.
So if we relog, is it going to go to flat and steady?
Possibly, but then we might have to restart the realm.
That's an interesting thing with the realm testing. Yep.
No, it's still loading those things at spawn, I guess.
Yeah, restart the realm. See if that, when us being far away, makes a difference.
Now, the other thing is, since the beta API system was introduced, that now requires you to basically get information from dimensions in order to search for things like players, entities, blocks, and things like that. And regardless whether or not any of those dimensions are loaded, you can still get the information from them now. And do you remember the whole thing with the end was and islands permanently loaded?
Yep.
Basically, Bedrock Edition does have ticking areas in all of the dimensions now because it needs to have that information. But yeah, that's better than it was. So if we go back to 0, without looking at anything,
The shulkers.
it's weird that the odd ticks and even ticks are switching around now, which is strange.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't know which one to prioritize.
Yeah. Now that we've added all of these things in, clearly it's worse than it was when we started. So having many 16,000 lots of things being loaded is affecting the game, but we're still getting an average 26 per second. So could be worse. Well, I'm happy that we've tested the main things in terms of just having them in your world. I think we've busted the myth. Having lots of chests in your world makes the world laggy is total nonsense.
Yeah.
But
For the client side,
yeah, for people wandering around the server that are walking past your base that can see them, yeah, it's a problem. If you've got a big old storage system that's just full of chests, barrels, ender chests, you name it, shulker boxes, furnaces, whatever, it's fine as long as they don't have items going in. We don't know about that. Well, we do know because we tested it last time, but that's what we should test next. Right, Slack. After some trial and error, we now have a full chunk's worth of chests that have enchanted items in them going through hoppers into barrels which are full of enchanted items. There is a 16 by 16 by 64 chunks worth of those. Frames per second, absolutely fine. However, the server is now running at an average of somewhere between, well, around about 14 ticks per second. That's not the average, actually. It's the lowest. That's the average of the lowest, if that makes sense.
yeah,
Right.
I understand. Yeah, I think people do.
And now we got to go through the grueling task of swapping all of those barrels out and then putting something else there instead. Okay, so a full chunk's worth of chest and things. My frames per second has taken a significant hint now. I'm down in the 70s.
I'm in the 40s.
In terms of the performance on the server, it's about the same. Maybe slightly higher, but it's pretty much the same. 14 and a bit. Okay, we now have the entire thing in with trap chests. And my, frames per second is just as bad.
Yeah, just as bad.
And this time,
Ooh,
is that a little bit lower?
that's worse.
Yeah, only slightly, but it is, isn't it?
Yeah, 13. I'm seeing 13. Oh,
Ooh,
we went down to a 12 there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to pop 13 for that
Wow.
one. Okay. We have an entire thing full of dispensers. My frames per second is quite happy with this, actually. It's only dropping slightly.
Yeah, mine's fine with this. Yep.
Yeah. But what does this say? Ooh, interesting. So it
better.
is still pretty bad. 15 on that one. Bear in mind, peeps,
Yeah.
I'm going for, on the third row down, ticks per second over the last 4 seconds. I'm using the max, which is technically the min. A whole bunch of droppers. Now, Still about the same frames per second as I was with the dispensers. We're back down to the 13th again.
Why dispensers better?
I don't know, but that's as bad as trap chests. In fact, that's worse. It's gone down to 11 and a bit. Oh, it's all over the place, this one. 13 and a bit. 13. I don't know what to pick for this one. 13, I think.
Yeah, 13 looks like the most consistent average there.
I'm really surprised at that. Really surprised. I thought that would be exactly the same as dispensers. Right, okay, so this time a whole bunch of shulkerboxes. Not as bad frames per second as I thought. Like in the 70s, it's looking quite low, Slack. 12.
It doesn't like it. It doesn't like it at all.
Is this the same as droppers? And now 15. So it's like it's going up. It just does. What?
Maybe it was still processing, loading everything. I don't. The game got behind.
Yeah, maybe. I'm going to... Oh, no, it's down to 14 again. I'm going to put 14.5 for this one because it's dotting between 14 and 15. Okay, so furnaces with the wrong item in. Frames per second, 120. Good. The ticks per second.
Doesn't like it.
Yeah, is that... Because that's... I mean, furnace is 12, but I'm kind of thinking, is that actually this? Or have we just... Are we measuring the items coming from the chest into the hoppers at this point? But then otherwise, that's lower than every... Oh, man, I just didn't...
What?
4?
Why 4?
I don't know. Big old lag spike. I guess the realm was having a minute. That's the other thing. We are on a realm, so we're at the behest of other systems on a realm as well. But yeah, that's definitely lower than everything so far. The wrong fuel... So now we have a whole bunch of furnaces, but this time there's absolutely nothing going into them. The hoppers are totally empty. The furnaces are totally empty.
Yep.
Is our realm just poorly and therefore giving us false results, or was it the fact that we were trying to put the wrong fuel in? There's only one way to find out. Are you ready, Slack?
I'm ready. I want to see this.
Well, it's still lower, but I guess that's just having a whole bunch of hoppers and furnaces in the world.
Yeah, so...
But it's nowhere near as low. So yeah, so having that many hoppers and having that many furnaces is still reducing our ticks per second slightly. Now, we have just furnaces full of coal, with hoppers full of coal, with chests full of coal. So this is trying to put the right fuel into the furnaces instead of the wrong item at all. So it is better.
It's worse than nothing, but it's better than the wrong thing.
So is that because, though, in our nothing test, we had no chests at all. Even though earlier on in this video, we tested having 16,000 chests making absolutely no difference to the game at all. But the fact that this time there would be above hoppers, is that going to be a difference? So
right, so we need to put the chest in on the nothing test.
Yeah, so furnace with coal, 15. So if you're trying to put the right fuel into your furnace, but it's backed up, it is still affecting the overall operation of the server. But bear in mind, on all of these test peeps, we're doing this on
the extreme.
Yeah, we're doing this on a ridiculous scale. Now, if you did have a server full of 20 people and they're all by their furnace arrays or they're all by their sorting systems or something like that, then yes, you're gonna hit some problem. But if it's just a couple of you or there's just one or two of you at a time in their industrial area, then realistically, you're probably not going to have that much of a bad time. So now we have all the furnaces with empty hoppers, with empty chests, with no fuel in the front. Should be the same as furnace nothing. If the chests being on top of hoppers are the same as just having loads of chests. It's mildly worse than the furnaces with nothing having the chests there. But it's pretty much the same. It's like 16.5. So yeah, if you've got coal going in the back of your furnace, it is worse than having nothing going in the back of your furnace. But if you've got totally the wrong thing going in your fuel line, then that's pretty bad. In fact, that's the worst thing we've had so far in all of these tests. We have now an entire chunk's worth of chiseled bookshelves full of chiseled books with chiseled not with chiseled books with mending books trying to go in them from a chest. Exactly the same setup as we had before, but this time using the chiseled bookshelves. Frames per second, it's dropping a little bit actually.
Minor, but yes.
Yeah, very minor. There. How's the server coping? How is our realm with all of these things going on? It's
not bad.
Not bad at all. 16, which is better than barrels, better than chests, better than trap chests, better than dispensers, better than droppers, better than shulkers, better than furnaces with the wrong fuel type, better than furnaces with the right fuel type, but slightly worse than furnaces with nothing going in them.
At least that's pretty well optimized. I had a fear that these would have been bad.
Now, we haven't tested just having a big old chunk of chiseled bookshelves on their own. We also haven't tested having chiseled bookshelves with nothing in them, with nothing going in them, like with the furnaces. But I would say, based on that there's not really a great deal of point in doing that because they're not ever so laggy. So
no,
if you want to test that in your world, then please do, and then send us a comment. See whether or not you get the same things as us. And while you're fiddling about in the comments, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe button because we really appreciate it.